Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. This video is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be going over how to send Logstash data from an external Logstash instance to, let's say, Security Onion. Now, if you know a thing or two about Security Onion, they have it set up to where you can send Logstash data or Windows event data from Windows endpoints via WinLog beats, and you send that over port 5044 to the manager. And when you're on the manager, when you're in the command line, you'll run a sudo sotac allow, and you'll tell the security manager, hey, this is going to be the IP you're going to let WinLog beat data come in from. Now, why are we going over how to tap into an existing log stash? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, perhaps we don't need to put an additional beat agent on an endpoint. Maybe we could tap into something that's already there and live off the environment, so to speak. And two, maybe you don't want to be as intrusive. Maybe tip your hand to the adversary, start shooting out agents all over the place. Or three, it could be network bandwidth constraints. Say there's already a 50% bandwidth on the network for sending, Windows event data from hundreds of endpoints, and now you place a second one on there, and now you've doubled the actual network traffic. So it might be easier to just tap into an existing log stash and start collecting data from the environment. So how do we go about that? Well, let's go ahead and start, and I'm going to show you a few things right here. I came across this real nifty article that was actually given to me by an Elastic engineer, and it kind of explains the steps to go ahead and make this happen. But if you're not familiar with Security Onion, there could be a knowledge gap there. So hopefully we can bridge that gap. I'll place this link in the description of the video below. But essentially what we need to do is, one, we need to create a cert, a key and a cert on our Security Onion manager, so that we can hand that key and cert off over to the external log stash, so that when we set up the conf file for the output using Lumberjack, we tell it, hey, use this cert, and then point the output towards the external Security Onion log stash for the input. And that way, when you're using the cert, you can create a secure connection between an external log stash and your Security Onion log stash instance that's running on your manager. So you would essentially go to your manager and you'd run this one-liner, and then you would change this portion right here to whatever the host name of your Security Onion manager is. And then on the external log stash that you're wanting to receive data from, you would go into the conf file and you would place this little stanza here in your conf file. I'll show you how to do that. And we are going to point it towards our actual host, and we'll give this, instead of the log stash as an example, we'll do the IP of the Security Onion manager. And then we'll also tell it to send data over port 5044. And then here we'll also tell it where to point towards for the cert. Now on Security Onion, we're going to do is the input section right here. And we're going to take, it's a beats conf file, and we're going to amend that file, and we're going to place this in there with some additional little extra lines of code. And we're going to say, hey, accept over port 5044 any connections, and use these certs for any external connections, right? And then once we're done, we'll go back to the external log stash and we'll run a test to verify whether or not we can actually send some test data. And at the end of everything, what it should look like is, here's our Security Onion. We'll open up Kibana right here. It'll pop up in a new window. And if we have a successful test and we're actually able to receive data from an external Logstash instance, we'll have this hello world right here. And you can see that the past 24 hours I've done some tests. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and get rid of this, and we'll scale it down in that last hour and see if we can get anything. Now let's go ahead and start with the configurations, okay? So right here, as you can see, I have a standalone Elastic stack. It's running Elastic, Logstash, and Kibana. And here I have Security Onion that I've named. Host name is Cyber Labs. So what we'll do first is you will make the SSL cert for your secure connection to occur. And essentially what it is this. You would go back over to um, your, like I said, I'll put this link here in the description. We would take this right here and just copy it. And then we'll go to Security Onion first. We'll paste that in there. You might need to run this with sudo. And you would just give it whatever the host name is right here. So sudo open SSL. We're going to create a Lumberjack key and a Lumberjack cert. Let me just go ahead and expand this out a little bit more so you can see it all on one line right there. And then we'll go ahead and hit yes. And then what we'll have is we'll have a Lumberjack cert and a Lumberjack key all right there. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to SCP that certain key over to our external Logstash. So that's going to be here. So you can SCP it over in various different ways, one SCP or just SCP from the terminal. But I've already done that. And once you have done that, you want to place the certain key in your Etsy Logstash directory. So it'll be here. Wake up terminal. Why are you sleeping on me? 1 second. There it goes. Etsy Logstash. And here you can see I have the Lumberjack cert and the Lumberjack key. So now that we have the original certain key that we made over here on Security Onion, in our external Elastic Logstash Kibana instance, we're going to make some changes to the conf file. Now this pipelines.yaml, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cat this so you can see what it's doing. And essentially here, it's telling Logstash to look in the confd directory for any configurations for any pipelines, right? So what we'll have to do is we'll have to go in here in the confd, and you'll see that I made a new logstash output.conf. And what it is this. So as you saw in the previous link right here, all I did was I added an output, Lumberjack, maybe in JSON, host or 192.168.1.88. But what it's going to be is this is going to be 181, right? Because right here, as you can see, this is going to be our security onion instance in which we want to send logs to. So the output would go to the 1.181. Okay. So go ahead and we would modify that. But first, you want to do it with proper permissions. And then we would tell it 181. Okay, that's pretty simple. And then you'll also point it towards the Lumberjack cert that's in Etsy Logstash directory. All right, pretty simple right there, okay? So you can go ahead and you can save that. And then we'll head on over to Security Onion. Now here's where things get a little bit interesting. And I have a little bit of experience working with Security Onion, not a professional, but I have encountered a few things, some gotchas. First and foremost, what's going to happen is you're going to have to set up a secure SSL connection between the external Logstash and your Security Onion instance. And in order to do that, you will need to make some modifications to a beats comp for a Logstash pipeline. Now, what we can do is we can go back over to our Security Onion. And if you want, you can do it this way, or you can do a quick Google search. and then click on help, and then just do Control F. And then here we have beats. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up the encryption part. Okay. And it's fairly simple. They have a default beats comp file here in this directory right here. Okay. That you can copy to the local directory here. All right. And what you're going to want to do after that is very crucial, is you're going to want to place your Lumberjack certs and key in this directory right here, and your key also right here. And then following that, the beats comp file that you copied up in here, you're going to want to amend that. And I'll show you what it's going to look like. Okay. So first things first, I've already copied the file over and made some changes. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. We're going to go back to the terminal. We're going to go sudo vi this file, put in your password. And here's what it looks like. All right. And actually, I'm going to bring up the logs, the external logstash comp file, so you can see what that looks like. So here we have the output using Lumberjack, and here we have the input. Now we don't have to use Lumberjack plugin for the input, I found out. I may be wrong on that, but I haven't had any issues just yet doing the tests. We'll see once we kind of put full swing production mode on and see what happens. But for now, it seems to be working. One caveat is that if you haven't done so already, and you'll see here in the link right here, if you haven't installed Lumberjack on your external Logstash instance that you're trying to receive logs from, you're going to want to go ahead and do that. Okay. Now going back, as you can see, this right here is the external Logstash instance doing the output. And here is Security Onion with the beats comp file that we're going to use to accept input. Okay. And it's going to be a report 5044. SSL will be true. And we're going to point the comp file towards two files, a dot cert and a dot key, which we created earlier. Now, a little bit of, I guess, background on this. If you try to look for this directory and the Security Onion Manager, you're not going to find it because this is being mapped to Logstash Docker. And I can actually show you that here in just a moment. But for now, we want to make sure that we set up our beats comp file that we copied from the default directory to the local directory, which is going to be this right here. So ensure that you copy this over. All right. And I'll place a link to this in the description as well. And then once you copy that over, you're going to want to make sure you then copy your certs to this directory right here. Okay. So here we've made our modification on our Security Onion right here to reflect the input. We'll save that. And now we want to go ahead and list the contents of this file. Oops. Let's go, make sure we copy that correctly. Copy. We'll go back. Sudo ls. All right. So as you can see right here, I don't know why it didn't copy over. Interesting. Give me one moment. It's going to be user so logstash. Do this right here. Maybe it didn't like that. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. And once you list the contents of that directory, which the security and documentation tells you to copy your certs to, you'll see they're in there. And this directory, once Salt makes its changes or once Logstash restarts, it will take the comp file and the actual cert and key and place it inside Logstash Docker. And to verify whether or not that's actually happening, we can do a couple things. We can go ahead and do sudo docker ps pipe grep Logstash. And we can see we have the Docker ID here. And I believe it's going to be exec tech IT, maybe this Docker. We're going to go back and make sure it's sudo. And it's going to be bin bash exec. Sudo exec. I wonder what it is. Let me make sure I got this right real quick. Let's get this last bit mixed up. That's here. No, it's not that. Let's go ahead and bin bash inside. Always get this last part. Docker exec. Oh, okay. That's what it is. That probably makes better sense. Docker exec, because we're trying to get inside Docker. And sudo. Okay. And as you can see, we are inside the Logstash Docker. It's on the Security Onion Manager. And let's go ahead and list the current directory we're in. And we're in user share Logstash when we exec into the Docker. And let's go ahead and get into certs. As you can see here, once Logstash restarts, it will then map those certain key files over to the Logstash Docker instance so that it can be used correctly for SSL communication between Security Onion Manager, Logstash instance, and your external Logstash instance. So hopefully everything is kind of lining up to make sense right now. If you haven't dealt with this before, there are init SOS files that are mapped to certain directories inside Docker for Security Onion, and that's a whole other thing in itself. But for this demonstration, we're just wanting to see if we can push test data from an external Logstash instance into Security Onion. All right, so everything looks good so far. The only thing that we need to do now is see if we can receive data from the external instance of Logstash. Let's go ahead and exit. Go ahead and clear that. And what we can do is you can try to set up using Logstash to receive any incoming logs and kind of output it to the terminal. But security is a little bit different. It actually will just store the data in a rolling log. So to ensure you're getting the data, you want to maybe do a TCP dump to make sure that it's coming from the external Logstash instance. I think that might be the best method now. If you can output the log streaming and then catch it, that would be great as well. But for testing purposes, we'll just see if the connection is made and see if any data is sent. Okay. So let's get out of this right here and make sure, okay, I'm good right there. And this thing is giving me, all right, there we go. So what we need to do is we need to use the Logstash utility that's in the bin folder, and that's going to be on user share Logstash bin. And you'll see here is the Logstash utility that we'll be using. And I already have some commands pre-staged because they're kind of long to type out, and I didn't want to type those out by hand since this is a demo. And we'll go ahead and do a TCP dump, and we'll listen for anything coming from .88. Obviously, you need to run that with sudo. Okay. Clear that, and we will go ahead and run this command right here to generate some output. And what it's going to do is going to use the Logstash utility, and essentially it's going to try to output some test logs to the external Security Onion instance. to see if we can actually get the test data, right? And let's go ahead. This all looks like it's good to go. So go ahead and enter, and we'll test to see if we get or receive any incoming data. And you know what? If I'm not mistaken, I think what we'll need to do is trying to think right here. So it looks like it successfully started. So that's good right there. So failed to execute. Looks like we had an issue right there. I wonder if it was something to do with the let's go back in here and see if we can make a modification real quick. And so this is always the issue when trying to do live demos. Let's see, Logstash Conf, and it's going to be here. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be. Let's go ahead and change this real quick just to test whether or not it has to be local. Okay, that one more time. Interesting. After output Lumberjack. I wonder what that is for. Go back in here. Did it not like something? You know what? Hey, we're missing something right here. 1 second. Where did it go? There it is. So totally apologize about that. I looked at it, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. We didn't even tell it what to output to. So I want to go back and I want to correct myself. I was looking at the wrong command. And what I want you to do is go ahead and we'll modify our comp file correctly because this is how it's going to be. Yes, this will be the external Logstash instance going to Security Onion. And the command that we're going to run, as you saw what I was doing, was I was trying to take input. We were actually trying to generate output and tell it where to go. So this is the correct command right here. If you want to pause the video to kind of get I guess an overview of the syntax of it, this is it. But I'll go ahead and run it, and we'll see what happens. So it hasn't yelled at me just yet. And there we go. Okay. So as you can see, here was the correct output using the Logstash utility. And we're generating a count of 5 using the Lumberjack plugin, telling it to go to this external host using this SSL certificate. So as you saw, once we executed that, we started receiving input using TCP dump. We saw that we did receive data from 1.88. Now, in order to verify whether or not this is successful, we need to see if we can see any of the logs in our scene. So this is Security Onion. Here's the index. Last hour, we'll refresh. And here we go. We have 5 hits. And we have our first hit, Hello World, from EDR, which is our external one, and our second one, and our third one, and our fourth one, and our fifth one. Now, in a future video, we'll see if we can't normalize this data to make sure that we're getting all the correct tags and whatnot, so on and so forth. But I just kind of wanted to demonstrate and show how I was able to accomplish this. And if you guys have any comments or descriptions on how to maybe make the comp files a little bit better, please let me know. I'm definitely looking forward to any feedback on this at all. Sorry for the hang up in the demo there, but as you can see, we are successful. We are able to get logs in from our external Logstash instance to our Security Onion Manager. If there's anything that you need me to recover, please let me know and I'll try to get that to you. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys tagging along and hanging out, trying to see how this got done. And yeah, I'll post all the links in the descriptions. I'll paste all links in the descriptions below. And hopefully that helps out. You guys take it easy.